Listening to amazing teaching by Aaron this morning on the cloth and the wine. He was talking about, he made reference to, not by name, but the devil's first sermon, basically that being that the devil taught us to learn about good and evil and become like God. That's what the devil taught. And we look at that story in the Bible and say, wow, they really blew it. And yet, here we are, all these thousands of years later, learning about good and evil so we can be like God. Because everyone says you gotta be like Jesus in the Christian world. And you think, well, where's the disconnect? Because they're not saying be like a really good man. They acknowledge that Jesus is God. But then I realize, maybe not. Maybe not. Because if you really believe Jesus is God, you would know that. That's not like some new information. That's not a disconnect. That's a change of your perspective of who Jesus is. People are looking at him as someone other than God. So maybe the Godhead has God and this man, Jesus, in our minds. Just like he made mention of the fact that if you believe God holds your sins against you, you really know he's disgusted with you. He doesn't really love you. You don't say those words. You may not even think those words, but there's always that underlying nagging thing. You know God's disgusted with you because you're supposed to get all the sin out of your life, and you're not, and you're failing. So you're always walking around in this failure, which never gets any better. I mean, there's good days and there's bad days, but it never really gets to where it should be because you're the one who knows all the rules. You know about good and evil, and still you don't do it. And he wants you to do it, and you don't. So just like that, it's in an intuitive or subtle way. I believe that the fact that we treat him like a human, as someone we can be like, is kind of an expose on what the Trinity really is. It's a diminishing of who God is. It's a humanizing of God. Whereas Jesus didn't come to humanize God, he came to personalize God. That's why the fact that he was completely God is so important to keep in mind. Yeah, he's completely human, but he was completely human in a way that no other human ever was, obviously. And maybe it's hard for us to wrap our minds around, but still, that is a fact, that your God became a man. And that was all of your God in that man. It wasn't a third of him, a part of him, a half of him. It was all of your God was in that man. That's why he calls him the express image of his person, the brightness of his glory. The God who dwells in unapproachable light walked this earth for you and me. And I just saw that, the subtlety. Why, when I talk to people who believe in the Trinity, it only goes so far, because if you reveal something simple like, well, you're a child, you're a parent, you have a spirit, and you are made in the image and likeness of your God. How is it that you're an individual and your God, in whom you are made in the likeness of, is three people? How can that be? And they just won't touch it. They'll just ignore it. They'll just stop talking to me. It's because intuitively they know there is no answer for that. There's no answer whatsoever. The theologians can go off into some crazy 20,000 word explanation of why that is, but they never really answer it, because you can't answer it. It's impossible to answer how we are made in the image and likeness of three people, because we're not. We're made in the image and likeness of one individual God, and that's Jesus. In Jesus' name,